You are your own CEO and board of directors. If what is happening doesn't align with the values of your own mission statement, then you know if it's right or wrong for you. I'm gonna get one more light. Oh, do we really need a light? We're like a podcast.
No, you look great. You look amazing. I can see you perfectly.
Awesome.
Yes. How's your day been?
Great. No complaints.
That's
no
amazing.
Complaints.
The first question I wanted to ask you is, what made you say yes?
I have a person over at Vayner, Vanessa Binding, and I are really good friends. And so when I saw the things, I was like, yeah, I'll do this. Why not?
Thank you. I actually have a call scheduled with Vanessa. We had like a little meet and greet call, and now she's scheduled to come on, I believe, the 1st of April. So that's when we're going to record our session. All
right, I'm putting on lotion so that I don't appear dry.
Thank you. My gosh. Okay.
So, and then, just having organic conversations, I think, so very important. And transparently, I feel like I've been in the house for 2 years. Right, behind the pandemic.
Right.
We're just now getting to a place where we're hybrid workforce. So it's good to, be reached out to. Definitely. And to connect to actual human beings,
Yes. Is your office started, like offline?
Yeah. We're hybrid now. Folks are going back into the office slowly.
I see.
But it's not a mandate that, everyone must return or anything like that.
Right.
We're calling hybrid. Some teams are going in, once a week.
Right.
Some people going a bit more. Some people don't go at all. So it's kind of a mixed environment, So whatever you're most comfortable with, they offer up.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer like working online, which is, like at home, or do you like the office environment?
I don't love the commute. I don't love the commute. So if there's one bonus of working remotely, it's that part.
Yeah.
But I do miss the environment. I miss being able to feed off people's energy.
Yes,
I think that's important as you try to stay motivated, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that's the part I miss the most. But at the same time, I think, I'm a bit more intentionally connected because we don't have that face-to-face. And then I've been able to, be connected to people across the globe, right?
Yes.
That I probably would have had the opportunity to do otherwise because we weren't thinking in that way. We were very here's our office, here's our box, let's just sit in it,
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I feel like COVID really helped us expand our own boundaries and how quickly people, use the online medium to connect with people all over the world. And really, I feel like the most important part of, physically being around people, that energy, we really miss that. But we also found the other alternatives as to, connecting with people all over the world, through Zoom and Skype and whatnot.
This has probably been really good for my marriage. Not that we've had issues before.
Yeah.
I think we're just able to do more. My husband has been in the office this entire time. He's an essential worker. So, but being here when he gets here, my commute was 1.5 hours, 2 hours back and forth every day. So doing things like eating dinner together, right? Taking a walk, whatever it may be, we've been able to do more.
My God. It sounds really simple, but they are very, very meaningful moments to really solidify a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm super happy you got to do that.
Yeah.
And I see that you're the Associate Director for Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, and it is such a unique and important role. I was wondering and super curious to know, what does your day-to-day look like?
You know what? I was thinking through this in case you asked me that. It's a lot of heart, head, gut, right? So there are moments with your heart, you have to, be connected with people. This is a unique environment that we're in. The remote working isn't great for everyone, right? So people that tend to be withdraw even more. So really, emphasizing to our teams the importance of connectivity. Not everyone is the prom queen or the homecoming queen or king, right? So, how do you engage introverted folks? Maybe it is a one-on-one. Bring them into the conversation. Yeah. So there's that. In terms of the head, I see data. Okay, this is what the data is telling me in terms of where we need to grow as an organization. Now I have to put together some framework to see how we can move the dial. And then the gut. Okay, so we have our employee resource groups, which are, communities within the community, if you will, that are cultural, and then community. One of them that I find most unique is the Working Parents Network, because they had to experience, the pandemic with potentially 4 to 5 year old babies.
Yeah.
These babies started their growth path education wise
Yeah.
in this system. So we really found the need to, okay, let's form a group of like-minded folks and see how we can help one another. But
Yeah.
in terms of the gut, that felt right. And as an organization, so very proud of OMG for doing that. And that said, we have our cultural groups as well. And with the social, unrest that happened in 2020, really made us sit back and pause. And we said, okay, what is our why, right?
Yeah.
Let's come together and build up a community to help with where we are. We all are so remote and apart, but that was our secret sauce, right? I think you tend to have that, similar to me situation when you're working with people in one environment, but this allowed us to, outreach. Now we're connected globally. There are instances in this business where, there's one person that identifies as X and that's it, right? So, we don't want anybody to feel like they're an outlier. And so bridging that connectivity is super important for me. And so that's my day-to-day, connected, head, heart, gut.
Right. That's amazing. I feel like that role requires so much emotional intelligence and to have so much empathy and compassion to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, which is not easy to do at all. So how would you say you cultivated that?
I would say, I just became an active listener. I'm one individual. To your point, I don't know everything. My experience has not been every experience, but you become an active listener to people who do identify it, and you learn how to be a better ally through that, right? So you build allyship.
Right. That's amazing. And I feel like that role is so unique because so many of these efforts are so unseen, because it requires the heart and the mind and, observe and listen. Those are not very hardcore, labor that you see, but they make such a difference in your organization where people feel like I'm heard, I'm noticed, and I'm seen. And that really results in people's productivities. So that's super amazing.
100%. And not everyone is as extroverted, right? And then I would say the inclusivity part is so very important for an organization to flourish in general. That is where ideas are cultivated when they come from different unique perspectives. And that's how you innovate and move the needle forward. So very important. Not everyone is the homecoming queen. Like I said, sometimes you have to, maneuver in different ways and figure out ways that work for everyone. And so that's very important, important to me. And I enjoy that part. I didn't realize how much until I got into the role, but before I was in the role, I was kind of doing it anyway and not realizing it.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I'm super happy that you, people like you are in organizations. It makes the corporate world so much easier and amazing. On that note, I want to ask you, what would you say is your story as a person from when you were born to bred to today?
So my story is unique. I'm what you call an apple peach, right? A unique combination of a fruit. But I was born in New York. My parents married young, military family. We got stationed in Augusta, Georgia. As a child, I grew up there for the most part, but got to experience different people, different cultures through the military. So it wasn't until getting into the civilian world and going to elementary school that I found myself as an outlier, right? Because I was the only Black student in a few instances in school. And so it would be, I remember, distinctively first grade, for example, there were 10 kids in the class. This was a private school, so this is a unique circumstance in general. Only Black kid, but there were 3 boys in the class and the rest were girls. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna make this easy for myself. I was a little younger than everybody else too, so I hung out with the boys. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But I realized I was an advocate for myself that very next year, right into second grade, which is, very young to think this way. But I came from a private school environment where it was 10 kids to 1. So there was very much a personal relationship with the teacher and fairness. Then I went to public school where it was probably, a class of 25 to 30 kids to 1 teacher. A little bit of a different dynamic. But I remember the first day of school, and I was excited to go. I got my new little purple book bag, my new trapper keeper. Yes, I'm Generation X, so there's that. And I was excited about it. And I remember the teacher calling roll. My name is Andriena, right? Once you learn, it's not hard to say, but phonetically, I can see where it trips people up with the two vowels. And she called the roll, Adriana, Adrian, Andrea, and then she quit. And she said, Coleman. And I looked around and I raised my hand. But she told my mom, she called her and said, she didn't answer the roll call when I called her name. And my mom asked me that. She said, what was that about? She didn't say my name, is what I said to her, to my mom.
Yeah.
At that point, and I at 40-something years old, I realized I was self-advocating then, But I was not going to accept that behavior, Yeah. She didn't say my name right. I corrected her. But this is, 7-year-old me at that point. I knew I had a bit of a personality then, so there's that. And I'm unapologetic about it, right?
Yeah. I love that, like standing up for yourself at such a young age. That is so unique. How did you feel like you had that fire in you where you felt like, I need to stand for what's right?
I knew what wasn't right. She didn't say my name right, and how hard could it be? And then drawing parallels between the two instances. That teacher the year before took the time to get to know me. She didn't have as many students to get to know, but this lady off the bat didn't do that. So I was just like, no, I'm not having that. She didn't call my name, and you're going to say my name, right? So I just didn't know. I just knew that wasn't my name, right? And so grew up in Augusta, went to high school there, and then I attended a historically Black college university at Jackson State University in North Carolina, A&T State University. Interestingly enough, my career right out of college is I got into radio. Again, that's a situation to where I was the only Black person in the room. This was early 20s, and at that time with media, there were a lot of non-urban dictates, right? So there were clients that would say, we don't want to advertise on urban radio. We don't want to overspend. Whatever that feeling was, that's what's happening, that perception. So me being eager, I asked my general manager, who happened to be a white male at the time, well, how did you deal with this? Because while urban stations had this perception, so did rock stations as well. They felt like, we don't want to advertise there. So I asked him, and he looked at me, he very pointedly said, we changed the face of the station. Interesting. So you've got urban radio, you've got a rock station, but representing the station in terms of sales, you put out a different face. That hit me in a special place. I really did. And I never forgot that feeling. And, my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, was like, well, here's what you do know. You know what you're up against, right? So that to me, I guess, led me to where I am, right? Constantly going into spaces where I'm the only one, but it encouraged me to want to create a sense of belonging for people, to have their career trajectory and choice, and I like to use the phrase for folks, find your why and challenge your why not, right? So that's essentially me in a nutshell, right? So in terms of the media agency world, I found myself, working on a lot of projects. When I could raise my hand to participate in employee-led functions, I did it. I genuinely love it. And so when the opportunity came for me to pivot into DE&I took it, right? It felt like the right thing. Again, using that head, heart, gut is what spoke to me the most.
Yeah. That's amazing, and that is very, very impressive. I feel like you really learned how to fight for yourself time and time again, and that's really, really polished you and trained you now to almost fight for other people. And I think that's really special.
What's interesting, that same general manager that I just mentioned, I came through a media sales program that was targeting, minority students, women, career changers, veterans, to pivot into the world of media. Media is this mystical, magical box of specialness that sits over here, very niche and specific, right? And to the point to where my mama thinks I work in marketing. Now all her friends think that too, because that's what she sees, through her lens. And it's not widely known about, right? And I understand that uphill battle. But I went through that program. That's how I got to the station. Fast forward a couple of years, I moved and pivoted into media buying. Guess what station and market I had to buy? You guessed it, that same one. And then you fast forward a few years past that, I was asked to, be a speaker at that same initiative that I went through, that program. And then I started to see, okay, well, who's participating? Guess whose name was on there? That same
the manager.
So I'm going to assume positive intent and that there's some growth. People should be afforded the opportunity to grow as well, right? Definitely. So, but I share that to say that you just never know where somebody will end up and who's making decision making. So it's best to treat people with kindness and respect.
I think that's a very, very important lesson. And thank you so much for sharing that story. Like, that was surreal. Really, I was not expecting that turnabout. And that's like such an awesome, happy ending. I loved it. There's this question that we ask everyone on the podcast is, are you happy?
Oh, I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. Is that fair?
Definitely. Please expand.
I think I'm happy. I'm proud of where my growth is. But in the DE&I space, we have so much work to do. I'm going to reference the marketing funnel. All right, we've got awareness. We're aware of what we need to do. Now it's time to convert, right? What are the actions? And that's kind of where I am. I want to continue to push to the lower funnel to where we're seeing change and we're seeing direct impact. And that evolves, that changes. But that's where I am. I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. And that motivates me.
Yeah, I feel like that's an amazing place to be at. You give yourself the credits for everything you have accomplished, but being unsatisfied still puts you on your toes and helps you like not be complacent. So I feel like that's actually like a very, very sweet spot to be in.
Absolutely. Just in my learnings, even with the employees, you would much rather have an engaged employee than a satisfied one. It's all the difference. But I would say I'm a hybrid of both. Yeah. Right. Only because what I work in is so very special and I want to make a profound impact. And so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's amazing. How would you describe your professional trajectory to where you are right now? I feel like all of us find ourselves at this stages. I've talking to a lot of young people who are in a place where they don't know what they're passionate about. They're still figuring life out. They're trying to fight for money. They're trying to fight to create an impact, find financial stability. I feel like we're all at that very, very beginning phase in our life. And then, we see people who've made it almost in the corporate world. So how would you define that professional trajectory of yours? Like, how did you make it here?
I would say for myself, I was never afraid to pivot, right? You also want to continuously put things into your toolkit, right? Whether it be certifications, learnings. Don't be afraid to try something new and learn the difference between having humility and being fearful. Right? Because I think that as a lot of young people, what you want at the end of the finish line, but how do you get there? Right. Definitely. I do think imposter syndrome sets in sometimes. Right. And navigating that and being able to self-advocate and finding your voice is important. But you have to try on different things. Be a dry erase board when it comes to things that you want to learn. Right up there. Don't work. Wipe it off. Start again. Never be afraid to do that. Yeah. And you're not going to figure it out in the first however many years, because I think that's interesting too. You turn 18, 19, you're out in the world and you expect to know exactly what it is that you want to do. We need to normalize that not happening, unless you're pretty set on, whatever it is that you want to do. Yeah. But for the most part, don't be afraid of trying different things. And I'm not suggesting become a master of none, because there's something to that too. Yeah. But, seek mentorship and don't have just one, have many. Not everyone has lived experiences that are sane, right? So I think that if you diversify in that way, your touch point, we like to say multi-touch attribution in the marketing world, right? Apply that same principle, right? Where can you learn? And then don't be afraid to pitch yourself and advocate for yourself. And I love to say this to people too. You are your own CEO and board of directors. If what is happening doesn't align with the values of your own mission statement, then if it's right or wrong for you, right?
Definitely. I love that. I was not expecting that. That was amazing advice. I love the part where you shared this difference in between humility and being fearful towards things. And I think that's a very, very powerful advice. And I feel like we have to take a lot of initiative to pitch ourselves, to learn new things and add them to our table. And what would you say is the biggest thing that contributed to your corporate success, beyond college and that degree? So many companies now canceling the requirement of having a college degree. What's your perspective on it? Like, how can people now get their foot in the door as, human beings and based on their characters over skill sets?
There's power in networking, right? There's power in being consistent. And I would say once you get in the door, be the one that's hard to replace, right? For me, it's been beneficial for me because I've had people advocate for me in rooms that I wasn't in, right? So, finding your people to help foster your growth and development is key.
Yeah.
Degrees to me are a barrier of entry. All they say is that you can learn.
Right.
Okay. I've seen people that have engineering degrees have pivoted over to media buying because they love it.
Yeah.
So anything is possible. I think that, what I would implore folks to do, in your interview, really do your research, right? Dig down to learn more about what the industry is and the things that you'll be touching. Yeah. I think that's important. And that's where you learn to really sell yourself, right?
Right.
To the people that you are interviewing with. But again, degrees are a barrier of entry. And I think that there's a multitude of talent that can come up through the ranks that could be groomed. You never know what our future leaders' backgrounds are. Right. So
definitely.
It's a little bit of a slippery slope for me. I'm kind of like, on one hand, this degree is fantastic, and I'm not by any means saying you shouldn't get your education. But, to internal folks, there are other areas of untapped talent and opportunity that you could consider.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that answer. And just to switch it up a little bit, what would you say is your favorite kind of music?
Oh, you asked me that question. I like everything. So, maybe I'm a mood person, but I saw this stat that old school music is doing better from a sales perspective than new music.
Whoa.
And it could be that it resonates with so many people, but right now I'm really into Parliament Funkadelic. I like old school funk music. I like funk bands. And then I'll turn around and play Fleetwood Mac. Right? So there to Led Zeppelin. I run the spectrum, Miles Davis, some jazz. Let's see, I'm the biggest Prince fan in the whole entire world. I don't care what anybody says. So cool. I got to attend his last show here in Atlanta, and I have my tickets ranked.
Wow.
So, yeah. So anything from Prince, but don't get me wrong, I like some of the newer music too. But and just to the point of that article I read about music, my Spotify playlist is a little random, and maybe it is a little bit of old school, to be honest.
Amazing. Okay, in the new section of music artists and stuff, who would you say are your top 5 artists?
Let's see. I like her. I really like Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak are doing. I love them. I like them separately. I like them together. So does that count as 3
100%.
Different things? Okay. I like that. In terms of newer artists, that's a tough one. I like Meg Thee Stallion. I think, she's unafraid to be herself and unapologetic. So I would say I like her in addition to the other folks I named.
That's awesome. I always I feel like you can really, really get to know the person and how they have fun, understanding, what's their music taste, and super big fan of that.
Yes.
I actually wanted to really ask you, your mission statement is ask your why and challenge your why not. So what would you say is your why? My why would be, is this something that I'm passionate about? If I'm passionate about it, then it rolls off the tongue easily. I can articulate it very well. My why not would be, have you done this before? You're my very first podcast opportunity. So in my head, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, this is great. Oh my goodness, what am I going to say? But you know what? Right. Why not? Why not? You never know what connection points you'll make and how you resonate with somebody else, what you have to say. So that's amazing. That's what I have to say. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm super I hope you have a great time. And I want to ask you, so what would you say would be your advice for women in the corporate world, women who are entrepreneurs, and women in general, who are just fighting to build a life for themselves? I never used to like to categorize people like, women and so on and so forth. I thought that people, but recently I just started working with like a Web3 company, which is founded by women, focused on educating women in the tech space because it's a very male dominated space. And I understood, how fighting for women is like looks much more different, and like different groups of people. So I understood the value and uniqueness of it. So in that context, what would you say would be your advice for them?
My advice for women would be to have no fear, and then find your people, right? So I think that the notion of mentorship and sponsorship, you think that, oh, this is what I'm doing when I'm starting out. No. That is a lifelong commitment. I'm very thankful to have Vanessa Vining as a mentor of mine, and she's absolutely phenomenal. And then people similar to Vanessa, right, that have been a part of my life, other women. Again, we don't all have the shared experience, but as a collection, the power of one is amazing. So I would implore women to do that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And on mentorship, how do you think young people can find people who they would want to be mentored by? I think that is a very, very important person to have in your life, but I feel like people struggle to find the right person.
Yeah, that's fair. I will tell you, I've voluntold them to be my mentor, and then seek many of them. I think that's where you have to start, right? You just don't stop in one place. And, think about your own network. Who are your people, whether through your family or people you see on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a powerful being in itself. And I just really harnessed the power of it, really began to understand just how much. I posted my first post on LinkedIn probably a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I shared my headshot, and I did not expect that reaction. I just did it so I didn't get fined, right? So I posted it, and it resonated with people. Over 3,000 likes, comments, 150 some odd, comments in there. It was amazing. But people, the students I know, weren't afraid to reach out to me to connect. I just did a Women in Media panel at the University of Georgia this past week. And so I'm learning that this is another social media app is how I was looking at it. No. This is where you can truly connect. And I think that I'm seeing a lot of students do that. I've had them reach out to me, and I'm reaching out to other folks. So I would recommend that you utilize the platforms where you are. You never know where you find surprise and delight. Right.
I feel like, just to bring more value to the audience, I feel like people understand how important mentorship is, but also sometimes people you really look up to who you want to be mentored by are really, really busy people, have the very, very busy and hectic schedules. So how do you think we as, young people can provide people value? How is it that we can pitch ourselves? And if there are any direct things we can tell them to clarify what that exchange is going to look like?
Yeah, first of all, I would say if you don't ask, you don't get. So I would go into it assuming positive intent, right? And then you can say to said person that you perceive as very busy, I would love to have 15 minutes of your time, right? Let's quantify that for them. And you'd be surprised about how people respond to that. It's been helpful for me, and I've been helping other mentees. It's been helpful for them too. But go into it assuming positive intent. Don't say, oh, they're busy. They may not do it. See, that's that you have, in order to pitch yourself, make it something that's snackable and easy for them to say yes to.
Right. And what do you think is we can ask, how does one get mentored? I feel like, when you have a mentor, that person's almost dedicated to you. They would know you really well. But when you're in a place where I feel like a lot of young people are just lost, they don't know what is it that they want in life. How is it that they might not have the clarity as to what is it that they want to be mentored on? They just feel like, oh, I want to be, close to the person I look up to. How can we make that work?
Yeah, I think they have to really dial back and figure out what it is that they're looking for. What's your desired outcome, right? So if you want to be, I'm making this up, a social media influencer, right? Who has taken those steps, right? Maybe you talk to other influencers. Maybe you talk to talent So I would really first fundamentally define what it is what's your outcome, where you trying to go, and then figure out who's gone down that path. And don't be afraid to reach out, right? Because you can swirl if you want to by doing nothing,
Definitely.
If you don't make that first olive branch or whatever, extending yourself out to them, then how can you move from point A to B if you don't do that, right?
Definitely.
So define what you want to do, find out who's done it, and then maybe some people that are adjacent to that can also help you.
Thank you so much for sharing that answer. I wanted to ask you, what would be your advice for young people, and in context to something that you would like to tell your younger self?
Oh my goodness. I would say, girl, leave him alone. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't say that. I would tell my younger self, think about what it is that makes you happy and understand that that's going to change over time. It's okay to change course and direction, but let's do a little bit of due diligence and research to really understand who you are and then align that with what you want to do. Right.
Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to ask you, is there anything that you would like to ask me?
Yes. So how long have you been doing this podcast?
So I started in February 2019. I really wanted to move to LA at that time, and I felt like I didn't know anyone there. So I just, started reaching out to people online and started a podcast. And I'm a huge Gary Vee consumer. So he said that, listen, girl, going to college, the biggest ROI of going to a college is the network you build. So I started using the podcast as a way to, build my network. So yeah, it's been 2 years now.
So you understand the power of network and have harnessed it. You don't reach out, then, there's no real way to move the needle. And I would say the secret to anyone's success is the individual contribution, but really it's also in combination with the support system you have around you.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that so much.
Yeah. So I'm just so excited about, hearing about how you got started and where you are. And I would love to receive the podcast and listen to it. So if you can send me that, that'd be amazing.
Definitely. I'm going to edit it a little bit. And since it's a very documentational style, so we don't, do a lot of cuts. It's a very conversational style. So we upload the entire thing on YouTube and you can view it right there. It's a visual podcast. So you get to watch the interview.
And I like to follow you. Right. Yes. So I want to do that too.
If you're active on Instagram, what we do is we splice up, highlights of the podcast into content for Instagram, LinkedIn, and Reels, and post the entire podcast on YouTube. So, you can be up to date at all the places.
Fantastic. I love that. You're taking it by the horns, and that's what you want to do in terms of your, whatever it is, that's your why. Right. Yeah. And I love that you said, why not? I'm doing it, whether I'm in LA or otherwise.
Yeah. I feel I really I love people. I love listening to people. And I feel people are like diamonds, how diamonds are polished by other diamonds. I feel people interacting with people you really polish your own self, listening to people's stories. And it really helped me transcend differences of age, nationality, and genders and stuff. I feel I really grew as a person, through the podcast. And now in my professional life, I'm really trying to figure out, what is it that I like? What career do I want to follow? And I feel talking with people helps me a lot to understand what does their day-to-day look like, or, what were their struggles in the initial days. So I just can't thank you enough for saying yes and doing this today.
Awesome. This was the best meeting of the day.
Thank you.
What are we doing next week? No, I'm totally kidding.
No, please stay in touch. Let me know if there's any way I can add any value to your life. And before we end, I really want to ask the last question is, would you have any feedback for the podcast? Any way that we could have improved or done better?
You know what? It's hard for me to speak to that. I love what you said, let's continue the dialogue, and maybe we bring on multiple people next time. And then there's kind of a round table conversation. Not to say that you haven't done that. I don't know that, but
I haven't. I'd love to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be my piece of feedback and make it ongoing,
Yeah.
I think that's how, and it could be complete strangers. Yeah. Meeting each other and then vibing. I think that there's some value to connectivity there.
Yes.
That interests people too.
Thank you. I feel that's a completely new segment of the idea and show I have is you and I can be a co-host and we can host a stranger and, talk about a topic that's trending or something and really, really build on this community.
I love that. I think that let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you so much. I'm gonna brainstorm this on more, and probably let's try and like according to your schedule and your availabilities. I don't want to be a burden, but maybe we can try and schedule something late April or something and have it.
That sounds fantastic. I love that.
Okay, amazing. Andriena, thank you so much for doing this. Please look forward to the episode dropping and all the highlight clips and everything. And please reach out to me if I can ever provide value in any way, and stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.